Okay, here's another one. This is typically the kind of thing that I want to show in video because of the perceived complexity. I will get my little nudge. I say perceived complexity because again, it's when we need to start with a little bit of strategy before even drawing the figure. So here I'm not jumping into gesture, I'm actually jumping into block-in like a painter. And I want to make sure that this figure fits in my paper. And in my paper, and also within, you know, its own proportion, because the proportions are complex here. We have a lot going on in this side, and then we have this seemingly long stretch. So I'm not really looking at gesture or anything, I am only looking at this very general sense of when we say large, medium, and small shapes. So, for example, here, what would be the small shape will be the head. Medium shape is generally torso, but in our case, I think we can even include this leg. Small, medium, and then obviously, here's our large one. The concept of small, medium, and large is pretty much the same across all type of design. Graphic design, book, paintings, anything. Fashion, of course, fashion design. When you see, sometimes people stand out in the street and we say, wow, they're so fashionable or something. In general, it all comes down to having a good balance or a good, how can I put it? Good interaction between a small, a medium, and a large shape. Basically, from head to toe, things are working together. And by working together, I mean the relationship of size, and of course, when it comes to fashion, it will be color, it will be texture, it will be, just quality of fabric. And so in design, it's not that different. This figure, when I see this pose visually, I'm very interested in what happens here, for example. So we have this sliding here, very sliding gesture. It's going like this. And this all still falls within this, let's say, medium shape. And I want this one to work with that leg. And you see how I'm not really concerned with anatomy. Anatomy is in the back of my head because I know I will have to get there. But I'm more concerned here with design. I want to make sure that I know why I took this picture, for example. I could say, why this pose and not another one? Well, exactly now why. Because we have a very nice contrast of a lot of elements going on here. And then fairly little going on that other side. Like sure, you have small things, but in the grand scheme of things, it's good to have one place with less going on and one place with more going on. And here I need to remember that the leg is long, and because this one is actually looking at us straight. Everything else is more or less, it's in perspective, or it's hidden, or it's foreshortened, and then suddenly we have only one element of the body that is really facing us, which is this leg, so it needs to be much longer than everything else. And plus she's stretching her foot, so I think we're actually coming out of the paper slightly, ever so slightly with the foot. So, sorry about that. I went really intense with this shin bone, but you can see the shadow of the shin bone actually on the photo doing this. It's pretty impressive because it's just reinforcing this gesture line. All right, I have barely touched the anatomy yet. I'm just still adjusting my foot with toes on the floor. So, what happens next? Well, next I do have to start digging in, right? We have this, a little bit of her side, the side of her face. Now, comparing to the last one, we can see that if you check the eyebrows, they align nicely with the ears. So good for us, that means she's pretty much looking at us. Which means if we know our proportions of 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, they should fit nicely. Yeah, 1/3 is the from the hairline, which is visible here, to the eyebrows, glabella. Second one is under the nose, and third one is the end around the chin. Now, what happens here is this kind of serpentine way of holding the arms and legs and hands, sorry. So I want to keep that, and you see I have my gesture, and I want to respect it, even if it means the anatomy is slightly stretched. I do prefer, and I think almost everyone prefers, a little bit of more gesture than anatomy, rather than getting it all stiff just because you need to fit I don't know, certain muscles somewhere. And in this case, actually, her arms are doing something very circular like this, very gestural. So let's do it. And I remember that I already drew my legs, so I have to stop, and I stop myself. Oh, this is one of the mistakes. I'm making a video about common mistakes with live drawing. So one of them, I can already tell you now. People do not respect their own lines, their own grids, or they're making like a gesture, or they're making placement or calculation, and then they start drawing and they forget everything. And it's very strange, because you're doing it for yourself when you're drawing. You calculate, you place, and then you just, I don't know, forget about it. We have, what do we have on the other side? So a light indication of the breast, which here is very nice to have the bra, because the bra can tell us that this is one side and this is the second side. As you can see, actually very reinforced with the shadow, the core shadow here, and the belly is folding neatly. And we have shadow again. And I think from here, crotch could be here, and then leg. Yes. We do want a bit more of the knee. Okay, how does that look? Not too bad. I'm not super happy with this foot. Looks a bit junky. What can I do with it? Well, you cannot see if unless I'm zooming out ever so slightly. Okay. I think we are still in focus here. Yes. And I need my toe to go back in the left, to the left direction. Okay. So next we can build our shadows around the face. If I squint, I see shadow working like this. Right around the nose. And softer as we get through the cheek. Here it gets a bit messy, but we will manage. We have one arm here. Even if we didn't manage, remember that drawing has very, very low stakes. The worst that can happen with a drawing that didn't work is that you have a bad drawing. That's about it. So, to quote, I don't remember that character from Star Trek, but fear exists to be conquered. So especially when the stakes are that low, it's really okay to make mistakes, because really making mistakes in drawing just means, well, you have a bad drawing. Woohoo. You can just throw it away. For example, here I think I am conflating both arms, but we actually have her arm doing this. It gets a bit messy. We need to come back to that one. Let's get the rest first. Okay, so knee. Calf, very well defined here. Going down the shin. And something somewhat softer here. I will define my shadows inside that plane. Okay, getting a bit shadows in. here you can see that the inner side of the thighs start doing this ever so slightly. Then we have to make a sharper angle around the knee. We do have beginning of the shin bone. That is also at an angle. Then here I can follow my gesture. And I like to separate at least the big toe when I don't have too much time, because the big toe kind of follows its own direction. Okay. We could readjust slightly here. Okay, I'm not going to do the light, I think, on this one, because again, this is not a perfectly lit photograph, unfortunately. I think I can adjust this leg ever so slightly. Looks a bit awkward. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Next one.